Welcome to 8 o'clock story. Give me just a moment before we begin. Look at it. This light, this sun flooding everything, warming every stone, erasing every shadow. Golden sunshine, there's something almost stubbornly optimistic about that phrase, isn't there? And yet, David Lynch, filmmaker, painter, philosopher of form, taught us this with surgical precision. It's under the brightest sun that the most dangerous mysteries take root. Not in the fog, not at night. Evil, when it's truly intelligent, doesn't need the dark. It hides in sun-drenched afternoons, in the silent hallways of ordinary houses, in the smiles of people we think we know. So how do we look without going blind? How do we get close enough to the horror without letting it turn us to stone? The answer, I believe, is silence. Susan Sontag, one of the sharpest minds of the 20th century, wrote that the artist's silence is not surrender. It is not absence. It's a preparation for spiritual ripening, a purification zone we have to pass through in order to tune our inner instruments before the music begins. It is from this luminous stillness that every evening at 8 o'clock on the dot, our investigation begins. Let me confess something to you. Crime, murder, the most final act a human being can commit, doesn't interest me as a spectacle. I'm not here to sell you packaged blood in 30-minute episodes. I'm not in the business of trauma tourism. What crime interests me as is an intellectual Trojan horse. The oldest and most elegant way we have of talking about what we really are. Our fears, our desires, the moral architecture of the world. Italo Calvino, and please pause on that name for a moment, because few people have ever understood literature with such grace. Calvino invoked the myth of Perseus and Medusa. You know the story. Medusa is the ultimate monster. Anyone who meets her gaze turns to stone. That's what brutal reality does to us. It immobilizes us. It takes away our words. But Perseus doesn't look at her directly. He looks at her reflection in his polished bronze shield. And in that reflection, that mediated image, filtered, transformed into something observable, he finds the strength to act. The mystery novel is our shield. Noir narrative is that bronze surface that allows us to study human beings in their full complexity, their violence, their fragility, their magnificent and terrifying ambiguity, while keeping our lightness intact. Because lightness, Calvino insists, is not the same as superficiality. It's the opposite. It's the only serious way of taking things seriously. And then there's Ovid. Ovid tells us that after Perseus defeats the monster, he set her head down on the branches of the seafloor. And here is the miracle, the branches that don't rot. They aren't destroyed by contact with the creature. They are transformed. They become coral. Beautiful, branching, permanent structures. That is what we do here. We take the dark matter of crime, jealousy, betrayal, injustice, ambition that crosses the line, and through intellectual investigation, through storytelling, we transform it into something luminous, into truth, into beauty, into knowledge. You might be wondering, how do the stories on 8 o'clock story actually come to life? They always begin the same way, with what Lynch calls daydreaming, a moment of free drift, of listening, an idea. And Lynch says, ideas catch you, you don't catch them, arrives like a splinter of light, a name, a mood, the sound of footsteps in an empty hallway, the scent of a place that doesn't exist yet, but that I can already sense with absolute precision. Then structure enters the room. And here I turn to Joseph Campbell, the man who spent his entire life proving that every human story, from Homer to Shakespeare, from Proust to the modern thriller, follows the same archetypal path, the hero's journey. But here's the part I care about most. The hero's journey is not a tragedy. It's not a one-way descent into darkness. Campbell is very clear on this. The hero's path doesn't lead to despair. It leads to transcendence, to an awakening. Our detective, whoever they are, in whatever story I'm telling you, goes down into the depths, faces the monster, gets lost in the labyrinth. But they do it so that something can be revealed, so that, at the end of the road, life finally appears for what it is, permeated by a love that sustains everything, a light that burns unconquerable even in the deepest dark. There are no dark stories without light. There are only stories that haven't found their ending yet. Tarkovsky. Andrei Tarkovsky. One of the greatest filmmakers who ever lived, held one conviction above all others. The purpose of art, its ultimate, non-negotiable mission, is to plow the human soul, to make it fertile, to prepare it to turn toward the good. Tarkovsky wrote that the artistic image is in itself an expression of hope, a cry of faith, not a propaganda, not a forced moral, not a mandatory happy ending, but faith, deep, vertebral faith, that meaning exists, that searching for it is worth it. And he added something I find extraordinary. The act of creation is by its very nature a negation of death. Whoever creates, whoever writes, builds a story, chooses one word over another, is performing an inherently optimistic act. Because it asserts that the future exists, that someone will live in it, that it is worth leaving something behind. You won't find cynicism on this channel. You won't find the cheap satisfaction of wallowing in darkness, the spiral of someone who fell in love with the abyss and couldn't climb out. We are here to prove, story after story, case after case, that what always triumphs is knowledge, talent, and the poetry of the human mind. There's a beautiful line attributed to an ancient rhetorician that goes, "Silence is to speech what shadow is to the body." Shadow is not a threat. It's not the opposite of light. It's what defines light, what gives it a shape and depth. Without shadow, the sun would just be a flat, blinding glare. Beautiful, maybe, but without structure, without meaning. That's what mystery is in these stories. The enigma isn't here to frighten you, it's here to orient you, to give you the tools to move through the complexity of the world without being overwhelmed by it. Crime is the shadow, deduction is the light that reveals it. And what remains at the end is something more precious than either: understanding. David Lynch, and I'll close with him, with this man who spent a whole lifetime drawing abysses to teach us not to fear them. Lynch once said, "A good time is coming for all of us." I believe that. I believe it every evening when I sit down at 8 o'clock to tell you a story. I believe in the power of a well-built investigation, a question asked with intelligence, an ending that doesn't tie up every loose thread, but leaves you with your eyes a little more open than before. Welcome to 8 o'clock story. Welcome to the place where the crime is only the beginning of a much larger conversation. I'll see you at 8 o'clock to witness together the dawn of reason.